My name's Suzy Tuxen. I'm a graphic designer and I run a business called A Friend of Mine. So I guess, well, I first started practicing design about 12 or 13 years ago. And when I first started out practicing, it was very much more about print and very little web design, or virtually none at that very early stage. It was just starting to come in, and I think the tides have really shifted with that. Now we're looking at doing much less print work and a lot more digital work, and I think that it's really important for students to really be highly skilled in learning how to animate and learning how to design a website and understand websites and things like that, and all those different digital mediums are so much more important these days with with the rise of social media and Instagram, and I guess there's also a really nice environmental sort of reduction in print work, which is kind of a shame in a way, because nobody wants print to die, but I guess print work is much more focused on beautiful small run, things like packaging or a beautiful business card, and then people are forgoing the things like the letterheads and the with compliments slip, and that's all turning to be digital and paperless, which is kind of great for the environment as well. Absolutely. So print is a beautiful medium. I think it's just really being used in a very more considered way. So people are printing less, but really concentrating on, if they're going to do one thing, doing it really well, rather than trying to just churn out lots of things printed in a mediocre way. So it's kind of a different way of people budgeting, spending their budgets, and really celebrating when you do make something. You just make it try and function really beautifully, look aesthetically pleasing, and try and be clever as well in graphic design, of course. So, I guess it's a lot about self-learning. If you don't know something, it's really adapt or die in a way. So I do feel like there is needing to be. It's not just the one education that you get at university in the very beginning. People are needing to constantly do tutorials or figure out ways of problem solving. When there's all these new mediums and a very quickly changing digital landscape as well. But graphic design is a lot about problem solving, and I think that in a way collaborating is really important with problem solving too. So it's about constantly talking to the other people involved, whether it's a web developer and that back and forth communication over problems or teasing out issues, or whether it's dealing with an incredible craftsperson doing beautiful gold leaf signage or mosaic, or it's about that sort of constant collaboration and constant checking too, getting fresh eyes and really testing things, getting prototypes made. So I feel like that's a really important part of problem solving, and really picking up the phone and talking to people is really a good way to iron out any issues. You can't just do something and hope for the best. You've really got to make sure it's going to work and check things over. I think it's really important because we're a young nation and we've really got to celebrate the history that we do have, and it's a really rich and interesting history, and it's and I think people who have proved this are Mimo Cozzolino's book, Symbols of Australia, and Stephen Bannon has also explored Australian graphic design in his Characters book, and I'm sure there's many others as well, but they're just my two examples. But I think it is really important to understand our cultural makeup and be a part of it moving forward as well, and really embrace our own history and not just look to overseas for inspiration. I think with globalisation, it's really hard to define now. I do think that we do have a little bit of a flavour of our own, which is really nice. And I certainly felt when I moved to London that they had a slightly different flavour and slightly different methodology. But it's a tricky one because we are so exposed to so many different trends or so many different forms of inspiration. But certainly, I guess graphic designers are constantly looking around them, and I think we taught to do that at university. I know that Stephen Banham, who taught me at university, was always saying, look up at the buildings and look at the signage, and so I think that maybe that would probably infuse a little bit with Australian graphic designers' mindsets. Yeah, absolutely. Well, recently I just spoke at Make Nice conference, which was a really, really interesting women-only design event. It wasn't just limited to design, it was a creative women's creative event. And so I spoke about that. I spoke at that, and that was quite interesting because there was a lot of discussion about juggling parenthood and a business and my views on feminism, and so yeah, I've spoken at a few events like that. I've done a bit of teaching at RMIT, and along the road I've had several internships, and I've tried to mentor them throughout time as well. So I think that's been quite a nice thing. I know that I certainly looked up to certain people as mentors when I was younger, and I think that's really important to have a bit of that giving back when you can. And I do think that women do need more support, and I also feel very strongly that there needs to be more equality between men and women. I feel like more men should be allowed to work part-time when they become fathers, and I feel like that, and a bit of flexi time as well. I feel like those sorts of things are really important to assist women's careers. I feel like it's very hard for women to do it all. You just can't. It's physically impossible. You can't be everywhere and you can't be everything at the one time. And so, yeah, a little bit more sharing would be amazing, I think. And that's how I managed to continue to run my business, and only working 2 days, and needed some family assistance to ensure that happened, because I didn't want to lose my business, and I didn't want to put everything on the shelf for a couple of years. So yeah, so I work with Casey Brock at the moment, and we've also got a lovely woman, Veronica, helping us out at the moment as well. So first of all, my first job out of uni was at Studio Round with Michaela Webb, and she was just incredible, inspirational woman, strong, interesting woman who set a really great example and helped me a lot with the early stages of my career. And I also worked with another female boss and creative, Rhonda Drakeford, in London. And she, at the time, I worked for a studio called Multistory, and she's now running Darkroom London, which is an incredible business. So, and again, she was really inspirational, strong female role model, and I think having those two people to work for as females was incredibly inspiring and amazing, and I think that subconsciously that really made me feel that I could do it myself and take that leap, because I'd watched them carve their own path themselves. I had several conversations with Rob and Michaela at Round, asking them the more practical business questions, and I also had another friend, Scott Banana of Licorice. He helped me a lot in those very early days on the practical side, setting up terms and conditions, which I always try and share with people now too. So it's really good to have a bit of that practical knowledge as well. And a lot of it was trial and error. I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. You learn from that. Yeah. Personally, I am not a great networker, and I can be a little bit shy. So being visible and using social media and constantly creating new posts, new blog posts about our work, that really helps us actually gain projects and get clients from a practical level. But it also really leads to interesting conversations that happen on Instagram or people emailing, and really, really interesting collaborations and people that you end up working with because of putting your work out there a little bit more. So that's really nice. And in terms of the pitfalls can sometimes be, I'm a mother, I run a business, I've only got so many hours in the day before, between drop off and pick up at childcare, that I'll get a lot of people contacting me. Students might want a job or advice, and it's not physically possible to get back to everybody. So it's really hard sometimes, and can be a bit heartbreaking when you can't get back to everyone and have some unanswered emails, because I always really appreciated when people could get back to me, but as a reality, I just, you can't do it all. So that to me is a bit of a disadvantage. Yeah, a bit of a pitfall. It's not easy because it is against my personality, and it does take, for me to get up on stage or do anything like that, I wish I could be one of those people that just talks off the cuff, but I really have to prepare quite a lot to feel comfortable with it. So for me, preparation and also just biting the bullet and knowing that actually it probably won't be as bad as you think it might be, and you'll probably meet a whole lot of wonderful, really lovely people along the way. So yeah, just try and do it, I guess. Yeah.